What if Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader were different people? That's our story for today. Hope you guys enjoy this one, and let's get right into it. Our story begins on Tatooine, as a miracle birth from the Force is gifted to Shmi Skywalker. But this birth was not just one child. Instead, it was twins. Two young boys, both extremely identical in the Force and in how they will grow up to look, created by the Force in order to bring balance, as across the galaxy on Coruscant, Darth Plagueis was trying to twist the Force to create life through darkness. This is a power that Plagueis only heard of so long ago, and in his own attempts with the Force retaliated against him, creating the Skywalker twins. But as the twins were born, Plagueis felt a vergence in the Force, and he had a vision of the twin sons, seeing a small home in this vision. It seemed that despite the Force working against him to create life in the light side, Plagueis was strong enough to see where this life was created: Tatooine. So, Plagueis would soon take off alone for the sandy planet, and he would spend days moving through the sands, seeking out the child, when he would finally see the hut from his vision. Plagueis would wait until nightfall, then watch as the mother put one child to sleep. Shmi was still nursing young Anakin in the other room, but Plagueis did not know this. He thought there to be only one child born. So he managed to sneak into the hut, snatching the baby boy, escaping before anyone ever realized he was there. And by the time Shmi re-entered the bedroom with Anakin, the other child was gone. She would search for weeks, but eventually she had to come to the reality that only Anakin remained with her, and she would love Anakin with everything she had. From here, Plagueis would return to Coruscant, showing Darth Sidious the child, explaining to Sidious that someday this child will rise to rival the greatest of the Sith. His strength in the Force can already be felt, and in time, he will help rule the galaxy under their Sith Empire. Plagueis wanted to rule with an army of Sith, and he set up a large group of nursing droids on Mustafar to help raise the child for many years until he is ready to be trained. Plagueis was satisfied with this, and Palpatine was too, as he began plotting someday kill his master. And now, a decade would go by of the Skywalker child being raised on Mustafar by the droids, along with occasional visits from Palpatine himself. Plagueis and Palpatine decided that Palpatine offered a warmer presence in both looks and in the Force for the child to adapt to, and his training would soon truly be underway in the dark side of the Force. He would be raised as a Sith, knowing nothing but hatred for the Jedi, just like Darth Maul. And across the galaxy, Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi would discover the young Anakin Skywalker, and Shmi was relieved when the Jedi were able to free Anakin, take him back to Coruscant. Tatooine was a terribly dangerous place for Anakin, especially as he grew older, and she wanted him to have a good life. Shmi never mentioned to Anakin or the Jedi that Anakin had a brother when he was born. It wasn't that Shmi forgot about the other child, it was more so too painful for her to admit that she lost her child. If someday the child found Anakin or found her, she knew it would be a wonderful day. And so Anakin would be taken to Coruscant, and over the next few days, Darth Maul would kill Qui-Gon, while Obi-Wan killed Darth Maul on Naboo, and it was decided that Obi-Wan Kenobi would train the young Anakin Skywalker, while the other child was being trained on Mustafar by Darth Sidious. Recently, after Palpatine was named the Chancellor, he'd killed his master Darth Plagueis and took over as the true Sith Master. The young Skywalker child would someday be his apprentice, but he was far too young right now. So instead, Dooku was manipulated, turned to the dark side, to become the Sith apprentice. In the next 10 or so years in the galaxy, all the way up to the Clone Wars, would play out relatively the same way as the original timeline. Anakin would be trained by Obi-Wan, impressing the Temple Masters as well as Chancellor Palpatine with his powers, and he would soon be on a mission with Padme Amidala to keep her safe from assassins, as the two of them would quickly fall in love. Palpatine did not know that Anakin was the brother of the other child. Plagueis never told Palpatine where he found the child, merely that a vision showed him the way. But as the years passed and Palpatine trained the other child in secret, he wondered if he could have both Anakin and his young apprentice. He knew that if Anakin did not join him, then he would have to die. And as the Clone Wars would get underway, Palpatine was preparing to let his young acolytes into the war as an assassin alongside Ventress and Grievous. But something unexpected happened. Dooku would pay a visit to the boy on Mustafar, as Dooku felt threatened by his place in all of this. And on Mustafar, the boy recognized Dooku as the apprentice standing in his way, and so he would decide to kill Dooku here and now, take his rightful place as the Sith apprentice. Dooku had expected this, immediately feeling the anger and the unbalanced emotions from this boy, and so when he attacked, Dooku was ready, and Dooku was stronger in this moment. Dooku guided the boy all the way out of the hidden lair and out to the lava banks in this duel. Dooku was genuinely surprised by the sheer power in the Force that this boy was showing. He was unlike anyone Dooku had ever met, and he had no memory of his life before the Sith. As he aged, Sidious did begin to realize how similar Anakin and the boy looked to each other, though the boy on Mustafar was corrupted by darkness, and he looked much more broken, worn down, as the dark side did take a toll on him. And it soon became rather clear that they may be related. So Sidious had the boy wearing a mask to hide his identity, and Dooku never realized who was under this mask. Eventually, the two of them would reach a bridge, and the boy would launch himself at Dooku. But Dooku was ready. He managed to slice through both arms of the boy before slicing through his legs, firing Force lightning right into him, throwing this now defeated boy over a small ridge and out of Dooku's sight, where he thought he would die for certain. The boy, now merely a head and torso, along with arms going to the elbows and legs going to the knee, tumbled down the hot lava coals, burning so severely that no one should ever survive these injuries. But using his anger, the boy would keep himself alive, calling out for his master through the Force, and Sidious would come to Mustafar, finding the boy clinging to life through the dark side. Sidious would call upon the medical droids here, bringing the boy to the hidden medical facility here on Mustafar, and the boy would be rebuilt, not as he was before the duel with Dooku, but as something else. He was put into a mechanical suit, and when he finally rose back up, Sidious would call him Vader. As the Clone Wars raged across the galaxy, with Anakin being a lead fighter for hope and peace in the Republic, Vader would be forced to stay on Mustafar and relearn how to breathe, see, hear, walk, and of course how to fight. He was on new legs, arms, and every other vital function for the body, while his long-lost brother Anakin Skywalker became the hero with no fear to the public in the galaxy. For 3 years, the Clone Wars would go on as Vader would train and Anakin would fight all the way until the battle above Coruscant. Dooku and Grievous would capture Palpatine, and then Skywalker and Kenobi would board the Invisible Hand flagship, dueling Dooku, until Anakin cut through his wrists and had 2 lightsabers across his neck. But as Palpatine goaded Anakin to kill Dooku, Anakin would decide against it. Because Palpatine had spent so much time with Vader, he hadn't been able to manipulate Anakin as much as he would have liked, and that was showing here, as Dooku was soon taken prisoner. Once they all returned to Coruscant, Dooku was placed in a maximum security prison and set for interrogation and a public trial in the coming hours. And once back in his office, as things around Coruscant were settling down, Darth Sidious would activate his secret weapon. Darth Vader was waiting in the tunnels to the Sith lair, in the industrial sector. Through the Clone Wars, Sidious built up a hidden room in these underground tunnels to be the eventual base for Vader, and over the last month, Vader resided here, waiting for his powers to be called upon. Today he received his mission: kill Dooku. And as Dooku sat in his cell, waiting as the Republic set everything up for his public trial and surrender for the Separatists, Dooku was under the impression that everything was going according to plan. He would surrender, Skywalker would be a hero for bringing him in. During HoloNet interviews, Skywalker would slowly put doubt in the people's minds that the Jedi were not the good guys, and in days, as Palpatine refused to give up power, the Jedi would surely act, trying to arrest him. And from there, Order 66 would happen. Palpatine would give him his rightful place as the leader of the new Sith Empire. Dooku was admiring his master's plan when the lights to the prison were suddenly cut off. Emergency alarms were going off as red lights lit up the prison. A group of 10 clone troopers, 10 commando troopers ran into Dooku's cell, protecting him from whatever was going on. And somehow, one of the emergency exits sealed by heavy blast doors in the cell would slowly open. All of the troopers turned and heard only scary, mechanical breathing before a crimson-red lightsaber slowly ignited. The 20 clones moved in, firing at this intruder, but this armored monster blocked every shot, using the Force to grab 5 clones at a time, choking or throwing them across the room. Vader stabbed through any clone that got close to him, then threw his lightsaber at 3 of them, while holding the remaining 5 in place with the Force. When his saber returned to him, Vader slammed these 5 clones into the wall, moving in, slicing them to death before they could even begin to recover. And soon Dooku was alone with this monster. More clones were trying to get in, but Vader closed every blast door in the area. Dooku asked who he was, and Vader removed the mask to reveal the face of the boy Dooku cut down on Mustafar. Dooku saw now that this was the real brother of Anakin, and as Dooku realized the genius of his master's real plan, Vader swung to cut his head off, then cut a hole in the ceiling to escape from as the clones finally entered, seeing the dead Dooku. The news of Dooku's assassination with the lightsaber would quickly make its way through Coruscant, and the Jedi Council in a meeting would decide that it had to be the mysterious Sith, Darth Sidious, that killed Dooku for his failure of getting captured. The people were thinking it was the Jedi, and the public was beginning to turn against the Jedi because of this. But to the Jedi, all of this was just more evidence that whoever the Sith Lord was clearly was a member of the Senate or close to the Chancellor in some way. It had to be. How else would they know exactly how to get to Dooku? So when Palpatine promoted Anakin to be his personal representative on the Council would take a long look at Anakin and decide that he will be made a Jedi Master. Despite touching the dark side in his duel with Dooku, he was strong enough to bring him in, rather than kill him. And he trained Ahsoka to knighthood. She just didn't accept the rank, so the Council would make Anakin a Master, then ask him to spy on Palpatine, giving this evidence to him that Sidious had to be close to the Chancellor, whether Palpatine is aware of this or not. Anakin would accept this assignment with some hesitation, but he trusted the Jedi after being named Master. He did recently have a nightmare of Padme dying, but it was vague, and he hadn't had one since. Sidious was trying to influence Anakin to have these nightmares, but between Dooku's capture, Anakin trusting the Jedi, and needing to keep Vader hidden, it was not easy to find the time to influence the Dark Force around Anakin. Over the next day or so, the Jedi would spread themselves out into the galaxy. Yoda would go to Kashyyyk, Obi-Wan to Utapau. Other council members like Plo Koon, Ki-Adi-Mundi, Depa Billaba would be fighting battles across the galaxy, all in hopes of making themselves seem weakened to try and bait out the Sith Lord into revealing themselves. And as Anakin would eventually go to Sidious's office to tell him that Kenobi has engaged Grievous, Palpatine would decide that it's now or never for Anakin. He would soon reveal the truth to him, telling Anakin that he is the Sith Lord, and Anakin would eventually leave the office, extremely determined to bring Palpatine to justice for his crimes against the galaxy. No part of him thought the dark side was the way. Palpatine failed to turn Anakin. He'd focused too much on Vader through the years. But this was no matter for Palpatine. Soon, Darth Vader would officially reveal himself to the galaxy, and Anakin would die. And so as Anakin left Palpatine's office, he did not return to the Jedi Temple right away. Instead, he would go to Padme's apartment, telling her everything. He said that Padme must go to the Senate with this information. Palpatine must be removed from office. Padme would agree, then ask Anakin what he was going to do. And Anakin said he was going to return to the temple, inform the Jedi of this news. He went to Padme first, just in case something goes wrong at the temple. He figured Palpatine would not reveal this truth unless he has a plan. So Anakin would fly back to the temple and be unable to find Windu or any other council masters until he found Shaak Ti meditating. Anakin would quickly ask where Windu and the others were, and Shaak Ti confirmed his worst fears. They left for Palpatine's office a while ago, after receiving confirmation that Obi-Wan has killed Grievous. They were going to force him to give up his emergency powers. And Anakin could feel things were going wrong. The Jedi had no idea that Palpatine was a Sith Lord waiting for them. And in Palpatine's office, 3 of the Jedi were dead quickly as Sidious battled Windu, but Windu would not last long, as Sidious soon called Darth Vader to his office, and together, Sidious and Vader would overwhelm Windu, killing him as the Sith duo. And from here, Sidious would order Vader to take the 501st Legion, invade the Jedi Temple, as Order 66 was sent out around the galaxy. The Sith were set to rule together. In the temple, Anakin and Shaak Ti were now trying to contact Windu or any of the council masters across the galaxy, but all of them were not responding, as if they were all suddenly in the midst of battle. And as they were doing this, blaster fire could suddenly be heard outside of the communications room. Shaak Ti and Anakin ran out to the main area to see thousands of clone troopers spread throughout the temple, firing at Jedi in every area of the temple. Anakin and Shaak Ti would ignite their lightsabers, moving in different directions to try and save as many Jedi as they could. As Anakin ran through the temple, he quickly realized his own men were taking down the temple Jedi. Anakin couldn't believe it, but he could clearly sense something was wrong with these clones. It was like they no longer had any personality, following these orders like droids. Anakin had no choice but to cut down the clones as he moved from room to room, protecting younglings and other Jedi who could not fight for themselves. The number of clones was overwhelming, but Anakin was an overwhelming force of his own. fighting his way up through the temple until he came upon a room where he heard lightsabers clashing. It was high up on a temple bridge, and soon Anakin saw the body of Syndrelic cut down by a saber. Anakin ran out to the balcony, where he now saw an armored man stab Shaak Ti in the heart with a red blade, before turning around to see Anakin. Through heavy breathing, Darth Vader told Anakin that his master told him everything about him, and today he must die. Anakin didn't say a word. He had no idea who this was, and it was horrific. Vader would move in at Anakin with lumbering steps, the echoing sounds of blaster fire and Jedi dying behind them, as Anakin blocked a strike from Vader before truly getting ready for battle. The two of them moved across the balcony, exchanging blow after blow. Anakin rolled away as Vader swung over him, blocking a new series of strikes from his knees, and Anakin pushed Vader's saber away, spinning around, but Vader was ready as they now locked sabers with each other. Sparks flew as Vader stabbed forward, then tried his own spin, which Anakin ducked under, before flipping behind Vader. Vader would sidestep a stab, then collide blades a few more times before trying his own stab. But now Anakin was ready, grabbing Vader's wrist, slicing upwards to cut through the mask of Vader. Anakin pushed Vader to the wall, as the sparks would stop now, and Vader slowly looked up at Anakin. There was no mistaking who was under the mask. Anakin looked into the eyes of his brother, and despite the severe burns, the yellow eyes of the Sith, Anakin could see how identical they were. He never expected this, and Anakin completely let his guard down in this moment. Vader smiled, quickly slashing Anakin across the chest, and Anakin screamed in pain, stumbling away, and Vader hit him with a massive force push, sending Anakin flying hundreds of stories down to the ground to die. Vader turned around, satisfied with his work, and moved back into the temple to complete his slaughter of the Jedi. But as Anakin fell to the ground, he was trying to use the Force to slow his fall, but he knew this could be it for him. The slash across the chest was severely hurting him, but moments before he hit the ground, a speeder came underneath him, giving Anakin a comfortable landing. Anakin, through painful breaths, managed to see Bail Organa flying to save him. Bail just flew to the temple to try to find out what was going on, and seeing firsthand the death and destruction. And as he was flying away, Bail saw Anakin be thrown out of the temple balcony. He managed to fly down, scoop him up just in time. Anakin soon fainted as the chest injury was far too great to overcome right now. Many hours later, Anakin Skywalker would wake up inside of a Bacta tank in the Polis Massa medical facility. His chest wound was healing quickly, and he would wake up to see Obi-Wan and Yoda standing outside of the tank. When Anakin was healed enough to be removed, Obi-Wan would guide Anakin to a room where Padme Amidala was alive, but laying down, holding the two twin children. She had given a safe birth after the stress of the temple, seeing the rise of an empire, and knowing Anakin may die. Bail Organa managed to bring Yoda, Obi-Wan, Padme, and Anakin here together, and Anakin told them everything he saw, including the man under the mask. It was him, but yet someone completely different, a much darker version of him, and the three Jedi knew they must return to Coruscant. Anakin must take on Vader, while Yoda and Kenobi fight Sidious. Padme and Bail would stay here, as the three Jedi would take off for Coruscant, and soon sneak through the Senate chambers. Anakin's chest wound was very healed now, leaving a huge scar, but he could fight with it. And soon they would enter the Senate room, where Sidious and Vader stood alone, putting together their Sith Empire. And as the Jedi entered, Vader was shocked to see Anakin, while Sidious was not so surprised to see Yoda and Kenobi survived. And within seconds, the 5 lightsabers were ignited, and the battle for the galaxy would begin. Anakin versus Vader, Sidious versus Kenobi and Yoda. Anakin and Vader quickly renewed their temple duel, their blades colliding with a shower of sparks. As Anakin was leaping through the air, Vader stood strong in defense, using the Force to propel objects at Anakin. Soon they were smashing through Senate pods as they moved through the building from floor to floor in their massive duel. At the same time, Yoda and Obi-Wan battled Sidious on a raising platform that once served as the Chancellor's podium, now for the Emperor. Yoda flipped and spun with astonishing agility, his green lightsaber a blur, as Obi-Wan moved with his own defensive style, contrasting perfectly with Yoda's quick aggression. Sidious was slashing his red lightsaber to deflect each strike at him, as he delivered powerful bursts of lightning through the strikes, keeping the Jedi at bay. The Senate chamber itself seemed to groan under the strain of the two duels moving through it. Broken pods and debris quickly littered the floor, and the echoes of lightsabers and yells was filling the air. Yoda's acrobatics, Obi-Wan's defensive style worked against Sidious, while Anakin's raw, powerful fighting style clashed with Vader's cold brutality. Anakin and Vader were moving through the halls now, outside of the Great Chambers, as Vader ripped lights from the wall, throwing them down at Anakin. Anakin would dodge them all, soon cutting into the floor, slamming down into it, to make him and Vader fall next to the floor, on the next platform. Vader would land on his back, while Anakin landed on his feet, moving in on the mechanical monster to slice deep into his shoulder. Vader yelled out in anger, spinning to strike at Anakin, but he didn't see him now. Anakin had flipped over Vader as he turned, and now Anakin was able to plunge his saber through Vader's back. And as Vader fell to the floor, Anakin felt as if he killed any darkness lingering in him as well, and Vader would die here alone. Anakin sprinted back into the Senate chamber to find Sidious firing heavy lightning at both Kenobi and Yoda as they struggled against it. Anakin leapt down, getting in the way of the lightning, deflecting it back into Sidious. The Sith Lord was hit by it, and Yoda took this opportunity to leap at him, slicing across his neck. Sidious gasped, then fell far to the floor in 2 pieces, as the Jedi stood strong, alive, and well. They managed to leave just as clones arrived, knowing this would not be a scene looked kindly upon for the Jedi. They would disappear out into the galaxy for months, as Bail Organa and Padme took on the responsibility of rebuilding the Republic together. Yoda would go into a temporary exile, while Anakin and Obi-Wan would raise the twins, while Padme chose to work on the Republic for now. Anakin and Uncle Obi-Wan were excellent for the twins, as the galaxy rebuilt without Vader or Sidious, and in time, Yoda would return to be a guide, as Anakin and Obi-Wan rebuilt the Jedi Order, with Luke and Leia being the first new students. And folks, that is our story for today. I wasn't sure exactly how I wanted to go about this, but I decided that having twins with Anakin and a brother would go a long way. I thought that'd be fun, and just having Plagueis kind of sense this and be able to take one but not the other. And I intentionally never gave a name to the boy, the one that was Anakin's brother. I thought it just kind of added more mystery to it, and just ultimately was good for the reveal when he ultimately did become Vader. So, hope you guys enjoyed that part of the story, ultimately having the temple duel where Vader executes Order 66 and Anakin is still Anakin. I thought that was a nice, contrast to what we see in the movie, so I had fun writing that as well. The 2 duels with Anakin and Vader, fun to write, of course, because, it's Anakin and Vader. Anyways, yeah, ultimately killing the Sith in the end with Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Yoda. Thought it was a good way to end it, as Vader and Sidious, I could have done it where it stretches out longer and they rule the Empire together, but that's, kind of what we see in Revenge of the Sith and onward, so I thought, hey, let's just end it in Revenge of the Sith and have Anakin, Obi-Wan, Yoda move on, because at the end of the day, I think Vader was less powerful than Anakin, especially just, because he was in the suit. Like, Vader was more powerful, maybe, but the suit restricted him so heavily, so. Anyways, let me know what you thought. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.